Hey Lisa, we're gonna stay muted until we're ready.
All righty, thank you.
Heads up.
I saw him dancing, a picture of the paper dancing. About Kwanzaa? All right, this is a special Public Safety General Government Committee meeting, January 8th, 2024. It is 6:37, and we'll call it to order. We have two items of business. And let's get right to them. The first one is, I guess, Alderman Scott Childress's. It says this one here, you're in the wrong order.
Michael Norwalk, he needs to have handicap parking space made permanent in front of his house.
Yes, the permit.
Has a permit?
Got the permit, we included it.
DPW, or all approved.
The motion?
I move that we accept this resolution.
Do I have a second? Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Any opposed? Done. The,
You missed the most exciting.
you missed those, right? Thought you were,
Fun.
thought you were chill.
You're gonna have to look it up.
The Gina.
So Jeannie just sign here and then check yes.
Okay, the next item on this lightning agenda is a handicap parking permit for 171 Franklin Street. Alderwoman Moore, probably not going to speak to it.
She is not, but I can quickly, it's the same situation, it just needs a parking spot, no problem seeing the code or through our report, so I see no issue making sure this person gets their needed spot.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Okay, Julie Edwards, second by Rennie. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Done.
All right.
Thank you. On that note, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, Lisa, we're going to turn this, or to mute us until caucus.
7:40.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep, see you in a bit.
The record is
Let me change. All right, I'm going to call our caucus to meeting or to order at 7:01 p.m. And I would like to appoint Ian Donaldson as the temporary chair. She will lead us through the vote for majority leader, and then whoever we vote for will then take over and lead caucus. So without further ado, Ian,
A motion.
a motion,
So.
second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There we go.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Excited to be here. Excited for all of you to take on this new legislative session. There's a lot of issues facing Kingston, and to see so many familiar faces, but also so many new faces is really exciting coming from my position as the party chair. So I would like to ask, are there any nominations for the majority leader? Steve?
Thank you for the recognition here. I'd like to take the opportunity to once again nominate Reynolds Scott Childress. I've been here with Rennie for quite some time. I feel very, very confident in his abilities. He has led us with both wit and wisdom. Or one or the other. I'm half right on one of them. Rennie's not afraid to ask hard questions. He keeps us together, keeps us focused. I've really enjoyed working with Rennie, so I'm proud to nominate him once more.
Thank you, Steve. Is there a second for Rennie?
I would happily second Rennie as the caucus, the majority leader of the caucus.
Great. I will now ask if there are any other nominations for the role of majority leader. Are there any other nominations for the role of majority leader? And one final time, just procedural happening. Are there any other nominations?
Motion to close nominations for majority leader.
Motion made by Michael, second by Michelle. All those in favor of closing?
Aye.
Great. All right. So there is a, on the table, Rennie Scott Childress as the majority leader. It will be a simple majority vote. All those in favor of appointing Rennie Scott Childress as the majority leader of the Kingston Common Council for the year of 2024, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Rennie. I will turn it back.
Thank you. Well, it's good because I'm sitting in the chair. We already moved chairs once, and I didn't think this would be too much. But I thank each and every one of you for your support. I look forward to working with you very closely. We've got a lot of big issues, as Ian noted. I will say too that the mayor said he's got this goal of 1,000 housing units in the next year. So we're going to have to apportion it 100 each. So, over 5 years?
5 years,
No,
yeah.
1 year. We've got 1 year. Let's reach. Seriously though, we do have a lot of important stuff to do. Thank you. Thank you, Ian.
I'm going to hang around just to watch it.
All righty.
You typically don't kick people out, so.
We will move into the agenda. So those of you who are fresh persons, feel free to ask questions during this process. You can ask questions about the process or about the particular legislation because it's unlikely that you were at some of these discussions, all right? So feel free to bring up anything that you are concerned about. So what we generally do is go down the legislation list and whoever is the chair of the committee for that particular piece of legislation will offer a brief overview if one seems to be needed. That's time to ask questions too. And then we just check and see who's in favor of the legislation, who might be opposed to it, or sometimes there's some other issues we need to consider. All right. So the first item is Resolution 8, which is recommending the approval of transfer of $12,146 in the city clerk's budget to balance accounts. So that one. Is there a second?
I don't think it's one sign up for this finance meeting. I think this is the one.
This is one that's a balance account. So
Yeah.
this will have no financial impact.
No, this does have a financial impact.
This isn't the one for alarms and things? I think that was for a bigger amount of money.
It says the financial impact is 11,000 plus. $12.
Yeah, no, because this is the one I thought. We had this one for the alarm system, fire equipment on Broadway.
It's actually on the city website.
So it doesn't say anything about the alarm system. It's the one that was requesting building maintenance service contracts. And it's a request to come out of contingency. Remember that one? The alarm was come up before.
Yeah, okay. I just had this in the slide.
Yeah. There is a financial impact.
All right, so the financial impact is $12,146. Although with those extra zeros there, it looks like it's more like 12 million.
It is not.
That would be the entire budget. All right, so any questions about that? Any concerns there?
Says $12,146.35.
Yes.
Right.
Coming out of contingency, and we have plenty of money in contingency from, this would come from last year. So we're safe. Fix the plan. Right. The next one is resolution recommending the transfer of $10,763.69 in the building safety budget to balance accounts. And so that has an element of overtime, retirement pay rather. There's some overages and vacation pay, supplies, dues, and association overages, et cetera. But because it's moving within the account, there's no financial impact.
Jeannie, you would need to recuse yourself from this
Yes,
vote.
I was just.
Okay, so, yeah, so.
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations, and thank you. So tomorrow I'll have Elisa read the resolution and I'll look right at you.
Yes.
And just raise your hand, and in the handbook, it tells you how to recuse yourself. But if you have any questions, just let me know. You just have to state like a brief reason,
Okay.
and then I'll excuse you from voting.
Okay, are we all clear on that one? Good. So the next one then is an ordinance adopting the fee schedule for the year 2024 as set forth by the Finance and Audit Committee as per attached. So this is all series of kinds of monies that the city asks for different services that we provide. Any questions on that? Any fees anybody wants to examine, negotiate, consider, question about?
No, the schedule looked good.
Okay.
I saw the increases, they were good.
They're all relatively recent.
Right, exactly. Nothing seemed unreasonable.
That's where we're trying to be. Yes, good, okay, all right. What was up with resolution 11?
Okay, so there's a mistake. Michelle taught on resolution 11. It's actually adopting the pedestrian bicycle plan. The committee report is correct. So I'll ask, will you make a motion to change it just because it's now on the agenda? So if the public looks at it, they'll see that it's climate action. So we'll just publicly change that.
Is that considered a heading?
The title of the resolution. Just, yeah, to correct the mistake.
Okay.
And then just state it, and then I'll have Elisa state it with the correct. But the committee report is correct, so there is no real issues, just fixing
Just
the
the
mistake. Yeah. It's just a title, yeah.
Okay,
I'll
resolution
look for you.
Resolution 12, recommending approval for adding water department charges to the 2024 property tax bills. So for anybody who's unclear, this is a standard practice where at the end of the year, anybody who's not paid what they are supposed to pay to the water department, we take that amount of money and we add it to the property tax bill so that they have to pay it one way or the other. All right, 13 is adopting updated procurement policy. This has to do with how we put out contracts, and there were some significant changes here. So any questions anybody has about procurement policy? If any occur to you, feel free to get in touch with John too. Okay. All right. Then the next two are fresh, I tell you. You squeeze them hard, and you can have a whole cup of juice. Resolution 14 is handicap parking it's to allow for handicap parking in the space on Franklin Street. You okay with that? Not in front of your house.
171.
171.
Okay.
Name request that portion of it.
And the second one is handicap parking at 126 Linderman Avenue. All right, that, okay. Then there are two local laws. Just to clarify, if we haven't gone over this before, local laws require 2 readings. So the first time they come up, we simply note that it is on the docket, and then it's there for a month, so that it gives people extra time to consider, because laws are a little bit more difficult to change than ordinances. And so we don't vote on them at the first reading, we vote on them only at the second reading. All right. So the second reading here of local law 7 is amending local law 4 of 1992. Which one is this? This would be from laws and rules, but
This is the water advisory.
Removing
Moving the watershed.
Washing away.
waterfront committee.
Because they're redundant.
okay, right. Redundant committee is something we don't care for too much. We have enough trouble finding people to be on committees, so we appreciate that. These folks will move on to other committees. All right, everybody okay with that? Yes. And then local law 8 is regarding mobilization and impounding of vehicles. Any questions?
Not this one.
I want
Not just
to
any-
voice some concern about this.
Yes.
I think this is kind of unduly punitive. I think this kind of 2 strikes and you're out is just really harsh for what it is. And if we want to assume that people are acting in good faith and can't afford their parking tickets rather than choosing not to afford their parking tickets, taking away their ability to get to work to then pay those parking tickets seems a little draconian. I think it should be 4 or 5, basically.
Isn't it 3?
It's 3.
It's 3? I still think that's too punitive. Well, I mean, it's 2 strikes. You get 2 parking tickets, and on the 3rd, you're getting impounded. So you can have 2 parking tickets. And further, I had a conversation with Comptroller Tui this morning. Well, I asked him some questions about it. And the towing fees, which are pretty high by these towing companies, and the impound fees, which are very high.
Yeah.
They're almost $250 a day. We get none of that as the city.
Okay.
So we don't even get a cut. We are essentially encouraging private towing companies to be more aggressive. And I get the justification of this. It's for encourage turnover, you know.
Right, you don't want cars sitting in the.
You know, I live right uptown. I see the turnover. It happens. People, you know, we have a very good parking enforcement system here in Kingston. A fairly equitable one, but I just think this is too harsh, and I would prefer if it was raised a little bit.
We have
The
a really
strikes.
good language that it says that, I mean, we have to reach out to them in some way. Because we have to put them, can't be more, like, I feel like that puts a little bit of,
Well, what does reach out qualifies? Does that mean putting an envelope on your car?
it's not clear in here.
Usually it would mean a certified letter, which requires, a signature.
That's true. I just think this is a little too punitive for what we're trying to do. I don't think we as the city should be getting in the way of people trying to get to work. And we're taking the means away from them to do that.
I just want to add a detail for new folks, because this, even when I came here, was new to me. That there is and this is not to impact the decision-making on this at all, just to give background. There is a process for doing, for example, leave by mail.
Mhm.
And then for a while, I don't know, predating me by a few years, my office has had these kind of dispute resolution forums for the resolution of outstanding parking tickets, where, there's a process for requesting the reduction if that's not been resolved through the by mail process of it. And then I think it's once a month, or maybe it's once every other month. People can come in and explain the circumstances surrounding the parking, violations that they got and receiving further reduction. So I'm just giving that to you also because it wasn't apparent to me that there were all these other mechanisms that are not spelled out in our code necessarily, for better or worse, but I'm just giving you that background.
So I do appreciate that, and I have gone through the parking process
It sounds
even
personal.
today. Well, it's not personal, because this is a larger issue and I can pay it. But if you go online, you can pay by your card. But if you have more than one ticket, say you want to fight one and plead guilty for the other, you can't. You have to pay it all at once on our city website. And then if you want to go in person, you can either pay cash or check. You can't pay by card. So that's, if you don't have the cash or the check, you then have to take more time out of your day, your work day, to then go to an ATM, to come back, to pay it in cash. And that's 45 minutes, an hour of your day that's again gone, at the time that you had to take off from work, assuming you're still able to get there without your car, just to pay the tickets, which I have no problem with. We should be ticketing people who stay there too long. But the taking somebody's car away from them for just 2 parking infractions, or that third one, I just think is too harsh. And I would be in favor of raising the threshold, but as it stands right now with 3, I'll be in.
Well, don't they boot also? Don't they boot after so many tickets that are not paid? Aren't
they
they?
do.
So any vehicle that has been immobilized and not lawfully released or lawfully removed by the owner of the vehicle for 72 hours from the time of such initial immobilization, so in other words, may be impounded by the chief of police, which removal, release, fee, and storage shall be at the expense of the owner of the vehicle.
So you have 3 days from the boot to cure the parking tickets.
Right.
Before they take your car, so, yeah, it's.
So there's two aspects here about your car.
So literally, you can have your car impounded because you owe, because what are the tickets, $20?
Yeah, because you owe
$25,
$60.
so because you owe $60.
You're now gonna pay $500 to a private towing company, not to the city of Kingston.
So you're suggesting we take over the towing companies?
I'm communist, of course.
All right,
So what would you recommend?
I think we should raise it to 4 or 5. I think 4 or 5 is reasonable. I think 3 is too harsh.
So even raising it up to 4 tickets would, right, because again,
I think that gives you more opportunity to get your act together
and
and pay
also,
the tickets or come up with the money.
it sounds like too, we might want to actually provide this a little further to encode the practices that you were talking about.
Perhaps we want to talk about what makes the most efficient path going forward. Maybe there are aspects of the existing practice that can be tweaked to become even more responsive before we just set in stone what it is. That'd be a good idea.
Just
So-
procedurally, because this is a local law and it's a second reading, we can't make a change and then vote on it tomorrow. Just, I don't, whatever, I have no.
But we can send it
recourse.
back to committee.
We could, that's just, I think.
Because
the
there's no
cleanest
hurry
way
on
to send it
this.
to-
particularly.
Yeah.
Send it back to committee.
So I would be
Yeah.
in favor of sending it back to committee, but if we are voting on it.
So then, do you want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion if everybody's on board with sending it
Yeah.
back to committee.
Yeah, I
I'll
don't think
second
there's any harm. We've done that before, and then people have thought about it and said, well, actually, this is the best one. So that option is open as well.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's
But
no
you said there's no
time.
urgency.
Yeah, no urgency, so, he'll make the motion and who will second it?
I'll do.
Okay, great. All right.
I think this should also spark a larger conversation about how we charge for parking tickets. I think we should charge based on income.
Well,
I will give a.
What's your first next one?
Next time, no.
No, where's my name?
What kind of
Caucus
call you
updates,
have?
don't talk about parking in a second.
It's
So
a regressive fee structure.
Think of all the bureaucratic effort involved in trying to figure out what somebody's income is.
What if Jeff Bezos wants to leave his car? He gets $20, we don't get a chance to snipe him for a $10,000 parking ticket?
That's another discussion altogether. There's always income tax.
Yeah, the people would have to send in their income tax forms with their payment of their taxes. Right, well, seriously, there's more to consider, so.
No, yeah, thank you. I appreciate you all, considering this for.
All right,
It's a short one this month.
Well, I'll have to update.
No, we need the legislation,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, like I'm gonna just double the time here. So at the end of each caucus, I typically, or I always do an update on anything that is either coming or that has happened last month. This is your January update. We also do our liaison role, so you all have 2 or 3 liaison gigs. And I did write, I think in the handbook, what to do for those, so I won't be redundant, but if you have any questions for new members, feel free to reach out or ask me out if you're in caucus. But this is when we'll just, this is what DPW said about the snowstorm, or this is what Veterans Org has to say for this month. If there's nothing, then you don't have to give a report. It's just a verbal, like, just heads up, this is what's coming.
And that happens in here, not during the council meeting?
Yeah, it's informal, just, hey, planning board, this is coming up, you may be interested, especially Ward 5, it's happening. So just kind of our way of staying in tune with what's going on. So we'll do that, and then I'll follow up with my caucus update. So that's the first thing. I am doing, I guess, liaison for 2 ad hoc committees. One of them is the Ethics Advisory Committee that has been working for probably 7 or 8 months. It's 2 council members, and actually Carl is sticking around to continue on it. And then 2 ethics board members, and we're getting close to being able to roll things out to the public and to you. So some of the things that we've been doing is changing the financial disclosure form that's not going to go into place before we all have to fill it out. So at least is sent in that form, you have to have completed by February 15th. If you haven't gotten it, let me or Lisa know. The complaint form, we've made some changes, their rules and regulations, and then now we're actually working on the code itself. But how we're going to bring it forth is most likely do a open public session on what our changes are, we're suggesting the council and the ethics board adopts, so that the public knows what we've been up to, and then bring it forth to the ethics board and the common council for any decision making.
and is there an ethics meeting that will allow people to ask questions about the current norm?
Yes, and then one of the tasks that we took on ourselves is to establish an annual training session for ethics. So it will be for all elected officials, so us and mayor. It will be for all department heads and any board and commission members who are in advisory committee versus, or take action. Sorry, I said that wrong. So we decided on 2 sessions. They are exactly the same. You do not need to attend both, but we wanted options for work schedules. So I did email it to you. They're Wednesday, the 31st, 6:30. I figured that's the night that we all have planned for meetings anyway on Wednesdays, and then Friday, 10 o'clock in the morning, February 2nd. It'll be 45 minutes. I think it's kind of fun.
Said the law student.
And Matt has done, our assistant clerk counsel has done a really good job coming up with something that's more engaging than what you would think of as a
February 2nd?
February 2nd.
That's Groundhog Day.
It is.
Are you sure you want to have an ethics session on Groundhog Day?
Then we'll just keep having it.
Right.
It is closed to the public, 45 minutes, and then questions. We scheduled it before the financial disclosure form is due. That way, in case you have any questions on that form, bring it with you, and they'll help you go through it. It'll actually be Matt and one of the ethics board members doing the sessions. It won't be me. So things will just start coming to you guys all in the next, maybe 3 or 4 months regularly. So that's the first one, and then the other one that I'm liaison for, so to speak, is the parking task force that we established a few months ago. So we had our first meeting with them last week. So Steve Noble and I are working with the group. The group there's 9 members that we selected. They'll kind of take charge, and Steve and I will just be the liaisons for it. One thing that they really wanted to make sure is that I communicated with you all, because they didn't want to present an idea to us and then just, say, this isn't at all what we're hoping for. Obviously, I can't guarantee anything from only one of us and the only one without it. But I will let you know what their plan is and keep you up to date. We really didn't do much of the hard work, but some of the things, it'll be addressing all the holistic concerns, and one of them is about payment. Maybe we can make some changes. So there is a group looking at that. And speaking of more working groups, so part of the zoning code that we passed in August, we established that we would have a zoning working group. So I've worked with Summer and Bartek. It's ready to be announced. We will be selecting 4 members from the public after an application process. The council would be selecting them. So as soon as that press release goes out, please share with your people, your networks, so that we can get more than 4, but we'll have a pool of applicants that we could then choose from. And we have our 6-month checkup for the zoning coming up in February. So Bartek and I are also talking about that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Will there be council members on that?
Yep.
Okay,
Staff, council, and public.
okay.
Yep. And then actually, the other thing with the ethics, we are still missing an ethics board. There's a vacant spot, and it's one that's supposed to recommend a member. The mayor will still appoint it, but there's 2, I think it's 2 or 3. For the ethics board that we actually get to recommend.
It's 3.
Okay, 2 or 3, but either way, this is one of the spots that is a council recommendation. So if you know anybody who would be interested in serving on the ethics board, have them fill out an application, or just let me know and I can help with anything. But we've had this missing seat for a long time, so it'd be really nice to get somebody on board there for them. And lastly, I will be presenting to the community development and actually the Laws and Rules Committee this month about changing how the community development operates. So I'll be talking about that at the community development meeting, but you'll see it because I'll talk about it in Laws and Rules. We are adding a housing element to that committee. So I forgot to add those 2 words in the council rules. So that's why we'll talk about it in Laws and Rules. So it'll actually be called the Community Development and Housing Committee. That's all I have.
And
I didn't quite double the length of the meeting.
And how is this distinguished from the ad hoc housing task force that Bartek?
The
Yes.
county
County
task
one.
force.
I see. So that's a countywide one that he
Yeah.
operates.
But we are, we don't want it to be completely separate. I know you serve on that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there will be some overlap in communication between the 2, but it's not the same. And that one is county mandated.
Okay.
So there's a community, okay, so we're doing community development the 23rd, or is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's correct, because we'll have community development at 6:30. And it's the only thing on the agenda is my update.
Okay,
So that should be 30 minutes.
okay,
And then the special laws and rules meeting at
Okay.
7.
okay.
Any questions?
What is the topic of the special laws?
Is it on the agenda? It's Barbara, you want to jump in?
It's not.
I can't, it's not on.
None of them.
So there are a few code changes. One, changes to chapters 178, 179 of the administrative code that relate to abandoned properties largely. Those were presented last summer, but are kind of ready to be considered and moved forward. And then there are some kind of related changes for chapter 277 of the code that concerns transiently occupied structures. now that the council, well, now that the city has a whole new zoning code, there's some harmonization that has to happen to kind of align, more clearly align 277 with the new 405. And then just more related to that. So it's basically 277, 405 issues, 178, 179.
And is this due to timeliness that this is a special meeting, or is this because it deserves its own?
Schedule wise, we couldn't have corporation council at a regular meeting
Okay.
yet. I mean, this has been 6 months.
Yeah.
So we wanted to, and that's also why we piggybacked it to another meeting. Michelle and I decided to do that. So it's not, I know it's a lot to come out for, but that's why, just
Okay.
scheduling wise. It doesn't happen too often. And usually special meetings are a timely this issue, but I try hard not to do them, but this one we want to keep this moving and
Understandable.
sometimes schedules don't work out.
Can I ask you to go back for a moment? You had mentioned that you were trying to constitute a committee, was it zoning? That you were asking us if we knew somebody, I just want to get the name right, so if I talk to someone.
We're calling it a zoning working group.
Zoning working.
Yeah, so it's the ethics board.
Is
And
that,
the ethics board, this application is out on the website. Anybody can apply for that now. The zoning working group, it has not been announced. We solidified the information last week, so whenever, that's up to the executive branch, whenever he makes that announcement.
And our working groups and task force, are those public meetings or are those non-public meetings?
Typically not.
Steve?
Yeah, just a little update on the rec commission meeting from the other night. Most of it was pretty standard, but we did discuss at the end of the meeting the progress at Beach Stadium. I'm bringing it up because we have a couple new folks here who might be of interest. There were a couple pictures, and well, the pictures don't look great, but if you've been in there, they look really good. So, there's already a little transformation just from cleaning up under the stands. They're continuing that work, weather doesn't stop them from going under there, but that was really a mess. So they've been cleaning things out, getting rid of trailer loads of stuff that's been in there for decades and decades. So anyway, I would not propose, just ask if anybody is interested. I'm sure somebody from the rec department would be more than happy to come, give us an update. And it's been several months since somebody came here and filled us in. So if you all are interested, you can let me know and we will,
Maybe public safety, would that be the right?
finance.
Or finance?
Yeah, maybe have
I
Jack.
think most of it went through finance. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the last one was lost and roll. I think, let's look at the calendar and figure out when was good, when is good.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, haven't they also already put in the center entrance and exit for the teams?
What?
Oh, and that stands.
Yeah, didn't they open up the stands so there's a passageway so teams don't have to go around the building to get in?
Well, that's kind of what they're cleaning out right
Oh,
now.
okay. Uh-huh.
It's gonna go, it's gonna go right through the middle, down to the bottom. You're gonna be able to get to the bathrooms, to the locker rooms. So, yeah, I mean, it's really gonna be amazing. If everything goes even close to plans, this place is gonna be a real gem. I'm very excited for this. So, and they're still talking about having sporting events for the high school for the fall season, so. Sound a little ambitious to me, but they've said it a couple times, so they must be confident that they can get this going. So,
Speaking of Kingston High School too, I'm sure most of you have heard of the tragic loss. I would like to put a moment of silence in their memory, if everybody's okay with that tomorrow. I typically don't just make a decision on, I usually it's just a generic moment of silence, and if I want it, I'll always ask you all if you're okay with it. So is everybody, okay, all right.
Which reminds me, so those of you who knew, we also, you may, I don't know if you've noticed, but at the end of meetings, we can close the meeting in honor of somebody who's passed away in the previous month or two.
I did send an email to you all today
Okay,
about
all
that.
right, good. And then the city actually sends them
Yeah, so, oh, yeah, and actually I asked Kwame who's our deputy clerk, to leave the notices, the ones that they have asked us to now fill the forms. So if you're going to close the memory of somebody, there's a form to fill out and there's hard copies in the majority leader room. So you can just fill that out and then the clerk will type up a nice letter and then I sign it on behalf of us and send it out to the family. So it's a nice little thing that we do. So the forms are in the majority leader room. And if you want to email copy, just let us know.
This one's like, it's the majority leader closet.
With the microphone room.
So in the Arts Commission, they're looking at doing some revisions to the Arts Master Plan. So those of you who are in Midtown, there's a fair amount of interest you might have in that. Uptown as well, because the artworks and different art organizations that are up there. And downtown with Ask as well. So be looking out for that. Kit Potter's going to be working on that over the next several months.
Didn't the master plan just recently?
Yeah.
It's somewhat recent, but as with anything, you create one and you realize there's issues, and so you have to revise and. Yeah. Well, there's probably going to be some discussion, a separate discussion of the murals policy too, because there's some of the communication about them, I think, has not been as explicit as it could be. And there's also some issues about, as I understand it, some of the murals at least were only contracted for a certain period of time. So there's a question of, what happens? And also questions too of what happens if somebody has not put the proper primer, the paint on the buildings, things like that. So just be aware that some of those questions are going to come up. And if you know that you have a lot of murals in your ward, if you know the property owners, you may want to approach them and ask their experience.
Everyone said that 5 minutes ago.
Any other update anybody has?
The only water board, we all know that we finished the work on the dam. We've come in under budget. So that's complete. That's been an ongoing project for 4 years. That's great. And also liaison to the fire department. They don't meet regularly, but they will be meeting after finance meets to discuss hiring for paramedics. Support for the ambulance.
Has there been any further discussion about the central, the firehouse that's here in Midtown?
I haven't been to one yet. They haven't had one since you appointed me, so, but I can follow up and find out.
Because that was some issue, but do you remember we talked about that? It felt like it was 3 years ago.
Yeah, so what I know, I don't know if it's, the chief told me in a meeting before when Michelle was on the board that there is a plan
Okay.
that they're working on. He wasn't ready for it to be public yet, but they have been working
All
on
right, good.
figuring it out.
Yeah, I thought they were in like the design phase, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I did start talking to the chief about it, because I want to look at it
Mhm.
before managing it. And it doesn't seem to be, he's got a plan, he's managing it, and happy to show it for me. So
Okay.
that's what we're going to go from there.
All right. If there's nothing else, then we will assume that somebody motioned to adjourn, somebody seconded, and everybody voted yes. All right. Good night. I'll see you all tomorrow at
Thank you,
7:30.
Lisa.
Dressed to the nines.
Good night.